It's October, and we all know what month that means. It's Halloween. So today, with Variant Verdict, we decided to take a little bit of a different approach. Instead of actually focusing on one specific movie or anything, which, don't worry, we will be. We had a better idea. Now, we all obviously grew up with your horror trilogy, trio, or whatever you want to call them. Your Freddy, Jason, Michael Myers. But I don't think we've ever really gone in depth as to which one of our favorites of each series is. So that's what I was thinking that we're going to do today.
Definitely a good topic for a Halloween episode. So what do you want to start with first?
So I guess we'll go ahead and start it off with Nightmare on Elm Street. Now, obviously, this is, I would say, in my opinion, the funniest and most entertaining of all of out of the three. And I'm actually, if I were to have to pick my favorite one, a lot of people may not agree with me on this one, but I'm actually a really big fan of Part 3, The Dream Warriors.
Definitely a good one.
The movie takes place in like a hospital, almost like an asylum, not an asylum, but like for troubled kids, things like that. And Freddy decides to take his, start attacking these kids, but these kids also, through Nancy and other people, start learning that they can actually fight back.
And what's cool about that, to piggyback off of them fighting back, when they meet with Nancy, she's the main character from the first film, and they brought her back after her absence in the second film, notoriously.
Yep.
And spoiler alert for the really old movie, but she dies in this movie.
No, it's like
kind of a bold choice.
It's the way like Freddy got her in a sense, where
And she was like teaching a new generation of kids how to fight Freddy.
Yeah.
Like when they fall asleep and how to deal with him and all that.
Yeah, and then they start getting
a unique approach.
I don't know. I did like it though how like all of a sudden everyone started having powers. Like one of them was a wizard. One of them was like they just learned that they could use their dream power to fight him. And I don't know. I've always actually thought that was a neat one. I liked the deaths a lot in it. Like they were really creative. Like the puppeteer one.
How about when Freddy pulls the girl close into the TV?
It's prime time, bitch!
Yeah,
classic. That's what I'm saying. So that, I love, I would say Part 3 is probably my favorite. But what is yours? What do you say is your favorite?
Well, my absolute favorite, because I like scenes from a lot of the other movies. I like when it gets comedic in the later films.
Yeah.
It definitely takes almost like a sharp left turn from the slasher horror roots.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like most funny, like most
entertaining. Because if you remember,
of them.
Freddy was like an advertising figure at like his height of his popularity.
Oh, yeah.
He was in commercials and stuff.
Yeah,
and like this, he was all over the place. He was like a pop culture phenomenon. So it became more funnier, but it always to me will be the best at the beginning. I think the first Nightmare on Elm Street is my favorite.
Of course, I mean it's kind of. It is a lot of people's because it's such a different tone from the rest of them.
Yeah.
Like you said, how he's comedic. This is the one where like Freddy was like a fucking monster. Like he was coming.
It just has like the iconic imagery, like him walking down the hall and the streets in the dream, and like the casting of the long shadow from his fingers where he's like walking along. That all began in the first one. It set the tone. It introduced the idea. Like think about why Freddy himself is scary. The very fact that he's a character that when you fall asleep, that's when he comes after you.
Yeah,
that's
like
when you're
asleep.
most vulnerable to this person, And like them, it took that practical approach. Like, what would you have to do? You'd have to take caffeine pills. You'd have to drink a lot of coffee.
No, exactly.
And I liked that concept, and it was original and like unique. But an honorable mention and later on, it felt like Wes Craven, after letting so many people bastardize the series, eventually did with it. He came back to it and did this film called Wes Craven's New Nightmare.
Yeah.
And it was a very meta approach. And this time, Heather Langenkamp came back again as Nancy, but as Heather Langenkamp. You know what I mean? Like, she was playing herself, the actress, and he was coming after, like, the cast members that were, like, involved with the Freddy Nightmare on Elm Street.
Almost like, his power was ultimately the more you knew and feared him, the stronger he was. It was almost like the movie and fan base brought him into reality.
Did you notice too? I don't know, when you watched Wes Craven's New Nightmare, that the Freddy look, it got like a much more like, it had like a lot more
demonic,
scars and scratched up looking and like really weird like design change.
He was a lot more demonic.
Yeah, there was definitely a design change there, like that complete turnaround from like where it was heading just up to New Nightmare, you know?
Nah, absolutely.
And I thought it was kind of cool. That's my honorable mention.
That's your honorable. I mean, I don't really have one, so I would say mine is going to be Part 3 Dream Warriors. Yours is going to be the original Part 1. So let's go ahead and take a look at our next contestant. Okay. Now, we're going to go ahead and take a look to see which one of our favorite Friday the 13th movies. Now, this is a bit of a toughie because, I mean, this whole series, the storyline that goes on, if you were to sit and explain the storyline, you'd be like, wait, what? Like, I thought Jason was a monster. It's like, no, that doesn't start till, like, Part 4. Or, like, even 5, I think. So there's a whole confusion because even Part 1 isn't even Jason. So what would you rank your favorite Friday the 13th movie?
Well, I'm going to go out of my way to say that most people would say, why didn't you talk about the original? As far as the original goes, of the 3 films we're talking about tonight, it's my least favorite. I'll get that out of my way.
I don't blame you, actually.
I think the first film was very slow compared to, like, a movie like Nightmare on Elm Street and
Halloween, yeah.
You know, even Halloween's a little slower, but the soundtrack lets it coast.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah.
Obviously, the famous soundtrack of...
No, yeah, of course, yeah.
But that's nothing like, John Carpenter's soundtrack is amazing, but this, I think it gets better in the series where actually the further along where it gets to Jason Lives.
Yep.
That's when the series really capitalizes on all its goofiness, kind of knows, like, what's good about it and goes all in on that.
So you're going with Jason Lives as your favorite?
Yeah.
The one where he comes back. His first monster one, yeah. Like where he actually comes back to life.
Like, how about that opening where they're in the cemetery?
Oh, yeah. No, he's afraid he's still alive. So he drives all the way to the cemetery, stabs him with a pole over and over again. Lightning hits and brings the fucker back to life. It's like, dumbass. If you didn't do that, you'd be fine.
But yeah, it's got all the hallmarks of, like, what I want to see in a Jason movie. Obviously, he made some missteps. He went to Manhattan. Most of the film, it was, like, notoriously shot, like, guerrilla style in New York and, like, in Chicago for, like, pickup shots. All sorts of mixed up.
I am going to have to actually say, it's funny you bring that movie up because I probably think that might be my favorite Jason movie. Now, I'm not saying that it's a good movie. Honestly, the movie's shit. Like, you don't even see New York / Chicago, like you said, until like 3/4 in.
There's a Batman advertisement in Times Square.
there is, yeah. And, no, but like, it has some of my favorite moments in all of Jason. Him punching the dude's head off is outright, like, one of the most classic deaths because he's just going off on Jason, just going off, and then Jason just, bam, done. And it's just great. One classic moment, which I will always, and you can find gifs of it, everything, is when Jason is walking by the dudes and just boots their boombox on the street. Like, there's just something about that, like that like how you laugh, and it's like, I get that. I enjoy watching that the most.
Yeah, and here's the thing I like about Jason.
Once he hits New York, though, because up until then, it's like, can we get there? And then, once you hit it, it's fantastic.
It feels like there's just, like, no rules established in the Jason universe, and, like, shit can just go balls to the walls in each movie, and, like, the continuity's a little shaky. Like, they don't give
there's nothing. Like, they literally were just like, well, let's make, Jason go somewhere.
And they go to space.
And then they go to space.
Yeah, so that's where I'm going with Jason. They go to space.
So wait, no, you can't say that's your favorite. You just
said my favorite of them is going to be Jason Lives.
Okay, I thought you meant for a second. I would be like, no, Jason X cannot be your favorite.
But I like scenes from other movies. I like that they brought the Necronomicon from Evil Dead into the series.
Oh, yeah.
I think that was bold choice. Friday the 13th. What's it? Jason Goes to Hell?
Yeah, no, before we go, just before we lose touch on Jason X, though, I do have to say one thing. The sleeping bag thing. Oh, that scene in the holograph room where they won't die, and he just keeps hitting them up on a tree over and over. Oh, my God, that shit is amazing.
Yeah, actually, I think I don't remember which Jason it is that it began in. Do you remember?
And which one?
He kills a camper by doing the same thing with them in a sleeping bag.
I can't picture. I can't
remember which one. I'm gonna play a clip during this.
I want to play. It's
it.
like the second or third one, but
I forget which one it is. But that's like one of the most memorable deaths in Jason history.
Yeah,
he picks up the camper that's in the sleeping bag and just like
whacking him over and over on a tree.
Classic.
But that one's fantastic.
So that's what I like about the Jason series. What is your favorite?
Well, no, that's what I was saying. Manhattan. Manhattan was my favorite. So that right there. So you have 4, or Jason Lives. I have Manhattan. What would you even consider an honorable mention?
I got it. Which one is the one where they go 3D? Is that part 3?
3, yeah.
Okay. See, that's where I think this series is kind of rules. They made a 3D Jason and they brought him to hell and space.
Yes.
Okay, guys. Hell, space, and
out of all the 3 that we're talking about, Jason is the most well traveled.
I think that's why it's kind of all of them. I take it the least seriously. It's like the least auteur driven of the 3, in my personal opinion. But they're fun and they have no like established rules in their universe. So it's like the one I think is the most.
Well, yeah, the series doesn't become this. It's not like a whole thing of how they're going to stop Jason. It's really just who's Jason going to kill. Exactly. And how. Like, the same thing with Freddy. It's the same. Well, then I guess we can actually go into our third segment.
Hold on.
With that.
Before we let go of Jason, I got to ask. Do you have, like, a favorite scene that comes to mind when you think of Jason? Like, growing up, and I know you used to pop it on your TV. It was on all the time as kids. You kind of find it on your local cable network. What was, like, a scene that you always think of when you think of the series?
The boombox.
The boombox
getting punted.
Mine will always be him jumping out in the lake at the end of part 1.
Well, I was gonna say
seeing the final, your first reveal of Jason.
Yeah.
That stayed with me as a kid.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Was also, that image scared the hell out of me.
There is also a scene that always stuck with me, and I can't remember which one it was from, why it was happening. I'd have to rewatch it, but it's where they're a bunch of kids are out and they're all staring at Jason because Jason doesn't fuck with the kids. It's just the counselors. So he just stares at them all, and just leaves them, and it's just I don't know why, but seeing all the kids looking at him, I was like, oh shit, that stuck with me. But outside of that,
that's the
it's got to be the boombox.
Childhood memories. That's all this is.
It's got to be the boombox. That's probably my favorite scene.
So we'll move on actually, and that brings us, because this is a good segue. You mentioned that they approached the kids. If you saw the next figure, who's Michael Myers,
yeah,
in his most recent movie, he walks by a crying baby in front of the camera, and it accentuates that he's walking past it, and you're as the audience, oh my god, is he going to kill the baby too?
Yeah.
And the baby's just crying and wailing, and he just walks past it, and the camera follows him, and you're like, Jason, Michael Myers has a little bit of a conscience. So that's what I wanted to do as a segue into Michael Myers.
Okay, now
did you see the remake?
I actually have not seen the 2018 one. It's not even a remake. It's a legacy sequel.
It's a legacy sequel.
Yeah, it's like part 2 and on don't count. But I'm including 2 through 8. I'm sadly going to involve Resurrection in this as far as the selection goes. God, that movie sucked. But now, what would you say? Actually, when it comes to Michael Myers, see, this is my favorite one. He's probably my favorite out of the 3. Jason doesn't speak, but Jason is something that you can laugh at, where a lot of Michael Myers, you don't get a lot of comedy. And that actually, to me,
I feel like
helps
it was a series where you looked at it, you're like, shit's getting real.
Yeah.
I'll give you a good example. A scene that stuck with me growing up is that, and you're watching the very first, this is very early on in the first film, the John Carpenter one, they go to Loomis goes to the rental ward.
Yeah.
And on the way there, he realizes that
there's a break. They're all floating around, and then you see him leap the car.
Yeah,
and
it scared the hell out of me as a kid. I'm like, imagine if that was really happening around you. That would scare the hell out of you. It was just a real feeling movie. It felt
here's the thing. Freddy,
a very scary real thing.
Freddy, this supernatural, like dream guy that he has all these powers.
He's practically folklore.
You have Jason, who is
practically folklore.
Yeah, he's pretty much folklore. Like he is somebody who's dead, who's like come back.
In my favorite Jason movie, he comes back quite literally with a lightning bolt.
Exactly. But in this, like, he's not supernatural. Like in these, at least they tried coming in next.
Supernatural.
Somewhat, like he was. That was what I think before. The Curse of Michael Myers. They tried giving him some kind of a stupid fucking story as to why he is who he is. The fact that he was supposedly a normal person is what I think made it freaky.
But, yeah, and they showed you through his eyes him trying to kill his
actually killing his sister,
and
but
that
then
scared the hell out of me
his
too
niece.
as a kid. I hate clowns too, so the fact that they did that with him just as a clown, it was always a spookily shot scene to me.
Yeah.
So in terms of Halloween movies, what's your favorite? Best portrayal, best directing, just the one that you go to if you had to pick a favorite.
I guess, and I hate to be such a cliche on it, it's probably part 1. Because, I actually really did enjoy 2. I know 2 is actually one that a lot of people kind of throw by and they don't pay attention to it. And I'm not talking the Rob Zombie 2. Actually, but shit, even that Rob Zombie one, I liked the first one. The first remake. But I would...
It's such a dark fucking movie.
It is. But at the same time,
it's a brutal one.
But... That was what I think I liked about it. They didn't lighten it up. They made it
really
heavier.
Went off the walls.
Yeah, no, I hate
the pale white horse stuff.
Sorry, Rob Zombie. I liked part 1. I don't know where you were going with part 2, but I'm gonna think that wasn't all him. I have a feeling he had people influencing him and pushing him in ways and stuff like that.
Well, that brings us back to part 2 of the original Halloween when they brought it to the hospital where the whole movie takes place.
That was part
of the fire.
That was part of the reason I loved part 2 as well, is because it literally started where part 1 went off. And it even started with the last scene of 2.
And it still had Jamie Lee Curtis.
The last scene of 1, and it was still Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah, so you can't complain. It was
you could watch both and just consider that this is one night. And it is. It's one night. But it's I think they do go really well together. But I am going to say that part 1 is my favorite. But if I could choose, I would say the part 1, part 2 combined. But I'm going to go with just part 1.
I would say for me it's part 1 in 2018 Halloween combined for me.
Oh wait, so you're saying
I love the new one.
So the new one, part 1 plus the new one combined.
Yeah, because it became the new official continuity, and it makes sense because it's a direct sequel to the original Halloween. Yeah. And they do a really good job with bringing her back, Jamie Lee Curtis.
And they changed everything. Yeah, I know that technically
she still looks tough as nails. If you've seen Jamie Lee Curtis, it blows my mind. So I like the way that movie came out. I thought it was very good. So that would be my favorite. Do you have a favorite Halloween scene?
Oh. Actually, instead of a Halloween scene, because there's a lot of different scenes you could do, what's your favorite Halloween death? Yeah, what's your favorite?
Let me think.
Mine is probably one that's just, outright ridiculous, and I think that's probably why I like it, because it's so stupid, but it's, the most wacky fucking death that you can think of.
I really like the death, and I don't know if it's my favorite, where him and Jamie Lee Curtis are basically pinned against each other at the end of H2O. I actually really enjoyed that whole scene. I don't know why I thought.
Well, that's the thing. H2O
was, he pops up at the back of the truck again.
If we could do an honorable mention, I would probably say H2O is it, because H2O is the movie where it's pretty much Jamie Lee Curtis kicking the shit out of Michael Myers, and where instead of her running, this time she's like, "Fuck this." I'm beating the shit out of you.
Isn't she only in the very beginning of Resurrection?
Yeah, she dies in the beginning of Resurrection.
Oh my
That's
God,
what I said. Everything about Resurrection is fuck this movie.
Busta Rhymes in there, and then okay. So I would say my favorite death in there. God, that's hard to say. Which one would you?
Mine, and it will say this is the funnest death for me. It's hard to say if it's my truly favorite death. But the funnest death I have is actually from Curse of Michael Myers. And not every cut, from my understanding, has this death. But the father of that lives across the street of Paul Rudd, he like puts him up in an electrical box and electrocutes him to where his head explodes. It's fucking amazing. Like,
oh my god, where his head explodes.
He's like, yeah, and there's I think there's different cuts of that death, but that one is the one I would say is just like, it's fantastic to watch. Also, weirdly, another one I always thought was, just because I was like, damn, was, I think it's part 4 or 5, where he literally stabs somebody with a shotgun.
I don't remember.
Like, he takes a shotgun and shoves it through the dude, and I'm just like, ow! Like, fuck! So
I like the death in the new one in 2018 where the kid dressed in the devil outfits, he's on the date with Jamie Lee Curtis's daughter. Well, it's not a date. They're leaving the dance, and they're both dressed up in their Halloween outfits. He puts the moves in on her, and she like takes off on him. She's stuck by himself in like this little field. It's like behind a house with like intruder lights, and then he sees Mike Myers. The lights go out, and like every time the lights flash, he gets like kind of closer.
Yeah.
And then he eventually picks him up and like hangs him on a fence. It's like, it's a really gruesome scene. And I just thought about how like that was still scary like a year and a half ago when that came out. Like for me, I'm a grown man, so
yeah,
like, I thought it was kind of scary.
Well, no, and I see what you mean. I have not seen that one, which I know I need to, but I've been told of a scene that probably would have been the one to take it for me, where it's like this long shot that doesn't cut, where he's just walking through houses.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And it's like, the way people have explained it to me, that would probably be one of my favorites.
It's very cleverly directed. It looks like John Carpenter did it. But John Carpenter came back, did the soundtrack, and that's where I'm going to give it honorary points as well. The soundtrack was all redone by John Carpenter and his son.
Yeah.
And it's like, it pays homage to the original. It has like orchestral parts.
Yeah, you have your Freddy, everything with the comedy. You have your Jason when it comes to like that, like all that stuff. The music and alone makes you feel like unsettled. Like, yeah, so that's the thing about that series. That's probably why it's my favorite too. Is not only does it have probably one of the more intimidating out of the three, but it also has the best soundtrack.
It's the only one where the intro just plays the song and shows a pumpkin inflating.
Like all you have to hear.
That's all you need.
All you have to hear
sets the tone for the.
Not even the main theme, but all you need to hear is that like, doo doo doo. I can't even do it. Like I can't even do it right now. But just that little quiet piano that they have at like awkward moments. Man, they fucking nailed it. So
that's it, guys. That's what we think of the classics. And we will do some variant plays coming up from Halloween-related games. Absolutely. So that'll be fun.
Oh, yes. And also, I do know that our next verdict is, in fact, actually going to be one of my favorite Halloween movies of all time. And I don't mean that Halloween. I mean, like, Halloween-themed. So I can't wait for this one.
Heck yes. So happy Halloween, guys. Thank you for watching. Like, share, comment.
And subscribe. Yeah, it's that little button down there. You know,
yeah, somewhere around here.
Yeah, hit it. Hit it.
What do you think, Tim Curry?
Hit it.
See you guys next time.
All right, have a great one.